Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am doing another book themed video today and I'm really excited. I did another book themed video a while ago. I don't exactly remember when, and that was sharing my top 5 books I had read so far into the year. But now, as we are like 1 to 2 weeks away from the end of the year, I thought, let me share my top 10 books I read in 2023. Now, just a short recap about my book history. I used to be a huge reader when I was younger, and then I think same as a lot of people, like they get into adulthood and they were told their whole growing up and into college and like high school and college that they had to they were forced to read so many books, and I was forced to read so many that I absolutely hated. And so I think it kind of turned me off from reading, and it wasn't an intentional I'm done with reading, but it was more so that I need a little bit of break from reading because that's all I did in K through college. And so last year, or the beginning of 2023, I thought I am going to read more. Previously, I had read a couple books. Some of them would take me 6+ months because I'd read once every 3 weeks, and I'd be I have no clue what's going on. And so I didn't read often enough to actually enjoy it. But 2023, guys, I told myself, let's read 20 books. Let's do it. And I did awesome. Right now it is the 20th of December and I just finished my 30th book this week. I am halfway through a book currently that I absolutely hate that has taken me months. And so who knows, maybe it will make it 31 and maybe that book will just be scrapped and never opened again. But today I thought, let me share with you my top 10 books. All of these were 5-star reads except one. One was a 4-star read, but we'll get to that. So top 10 books in no particular order, just top 10 that I read this year that I was yes, hands down, you should read it too. The first book I want to share is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Sorry if I say names wrong, I don't know names. This one was a 5 out of 5 star. I just wrote, it was a wonderful mystery and I highly recommend it. It was one of those, it didn't take me long to read. I was engaged. It was just different because, there's those mysteries that are the whodunit that follow a similar-ish plot and they can have their own twists and turns, but this wasn't a whodunit, so it had its own complete style and I loved it. There is a sequel. I read that too. I think I gave that a 4. It was good, but it didn't make the top 10. But The Housemaid, and I will put pictures of these books on the screen, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever I'm rating these books. Such a good, wholesome mystery. Except, can a mystery be wholesome when there's mysterious things happening? I don't know, but give it a go. The next book I want to talk about is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. Okay, my friend Kat got me onto these 2 Carly Fortune books and they've actually both made my top 10 for the year. I don't read a ton of romance. I basically stick to, the occasional nonfiction, self-help, biblical teaching book, but I stick 75-80% of the time to mysteries and thrillers, and that's just what I really, really love in this season. But occasionally I can throw in there something a little bit different, and I just loved Meet Me at the Lake. Now, it is not a closed-door romance, unfortunately, so read at your discretion and at your, age appropriateness, and I'm not condoning those. I'm not saying that everything in that book is okay, but such a good romance. But it's not one of those. So what I don't like about romance novels is when you start it and they're the guy and the girl and they hate each other and you just know how it's gonna end. They're gonna fall in love. This is not one of those. It adds in so much suspense and family drama and just a good wholesome story to where I could not put it down. I had to know what was gonna happen, and they leave in these little spurts along the way to get you intrigued to keep reading and some suspense, and I was just I love this book. The third one I want to talk about today is by Tyler Staton, and it's called Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools. My husband read this book first and he was this is the best prayer book I've ever read, and I would have to agree. It's different than any prayer book I've read, but it's so rich that if you would love to just know more about prayer and dive more into the Bible and diving more into knowing more about Jesus and his heart and prayer, this book is a must. It is so good, so rich. You just like, I could read it 10 times and probably still be gaining new information and just like knowledge about the Bible through it. Just so good. Stories about just the power of prayer, and you leave this book just being fired up, and that's such a good type of nonfiction book. The next book I for sure talked about in my previous video on books, but this is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. This was a reread this year. I had read it a couple years back, and honestly, I think it just needs to be an annual read at this point. So maybe eventually I'll stop talking about it, but we'll see. If I read it every year, it might just always make the top 10. This is the best nonfiction book I have ever read. And when I say ever read, I mean it. It is so rich about just everything with our society in the go, 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 hurry and busy, but like all the statistics and all of that just woven together in the most beautiful way that just leaves you feeling convicted, but also just amped up on being closer to Jesus than you've ever been before. And there's so many, like this book is what got my husband and I started on Sabbath. I did a video a while ago just on how we practice Sabbath with 2 young kids. And this book is just full of everything amazing that you can think of. And I think everyone needs to read it. Everyone in our society, everyone today needs to read this book because it's so pertinent, applicable. It is so applicable to right now as we are living. It was just written a couple years ago, so it's just so good. The 5th book is actually a 3rd book in a series, so I don't have the other 2 books in my top 10, but I do have the 3rd book in my top 10. So this was the only book in my top 10 that I rated a 4 instead of a 5. This is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. It is number 3 in the series, The Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, The Good Girl's Guide to Murder is a very good 3-part mystery series, but all the books I was like, these are good, but I'm not obsessed. That's kind of how I felt about all of them. I can read a thriller book and be like, yes, yes, yes. And I can read one and be like, that was good, but not life-changing. Not that all my other books are life-changing, but you know what I mean. But this 3rd one, it started out really dark and it started out really eerie, where I was like, I don't know if I like this, but I'm the 3rd in the series, so I kind of have to finish it. But it ended in such a way where I was just like, you know, I kind of changed my opinion on that one. And so I think that's why it makes my top 10, is because it just really had a way in this 3rd one of like changing my heart towards and like my mindset towards the series. And so my husband, I think he's only read the 1st one, but he loved the 1st one. Like I think he would probably give it a 5 out of 5. I was just always like, it's good, but not amazing. But I know a lot of people who do think that it's amazing. And so I would say this whole series is just really good if you love a good mystery book. I've heard of a lot of like middle school and high schoolers who also read this and enjoyed it as well. So this would definitely be one that's maybe a little bit more friendly to those ages. But specifically today, As Good as Dead, the 3rd one in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, is the one on here. The next book is I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. Now, I think most people would maybe disagree with me on this one being in my top 10. Man, what do I have to say about this book? So this book, why I loved it so much was how it made me feel. Now, there are books where you like don't really feel like you're a part of the story, but this book, from the get-go, like when I tell you that I did not put it down, it was like we're in a car ride and I'm like, I need to keep reading. I have 5 minutes while the kids are finishing nap, I need to keep reading. I'm waiting for my like dinner to finish cooking, I need to keep reading. Like I could not put it down. And I think that says a lot about a book when you feel so engaged with it and so into the characters and knowing more and knowing what's going to happen that you feel as though you need to finish the book as soon as you can. This was one of those. I was scared, like literally so scared. I was crying. I just like, I felt every emotion to where I genuinely was like sitting there bawling reading this. My husband's like, what's going on? I'm like, this book, I have no words. And so I like talked it through with my husband as I was reading it. So he would never read it. So I don't know what he would rate it, because I literally told him every detail I could, and he'd be like, ugh, this book sounds awful. And I was like, for some reason it's one of those like more morbid thrillers, but I'm just obsessed. So if you want a book that maybe scares you a little bit, but also you just at the end are like, what? I would never in a million years know that that's how it's going to end. Like, it's one of those. And again, that's what I don't like about romance novels, is you can predict the end a lot. But with a thriller, you're always thrown some twisty turn to where you end and you're just like, what? And that's why I keep reading them. The 7th book I want to highlight today is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Now, this was one of those mysteries that actually, like, I feel like went a different way than a normal mystery, and I think that's why I liked it. It was a fairly simple read. There weren't times of being like feeling emotions super intensely, but it was one of those where I read it and every other page goes from like the present time to the past time, present time, past time. And so you're always getting fed these little nuggets of information from present and past that make you just need to keep reading the next chapter, because you're always in every chapter finding out something that makes you want to keep going. So you feel like it's hard to put down. And so I just really feel like I gravitate towards those books that I feel like I can't put down, because I'm left going, oh wow. But like, even though I read this a while ago, I remember how it made me feel. And I remember that it was harder to put down because I just was really engaged in the story. And so that's what makes me gravitated towards it. Yeah. The 8th book is the other book I've read by Carly Fortune. So the first one was Meet Me at the Lake. This one is called Every Summer After. Honestly, I read this one so long ago, but I just remember absolutely loving it and being like, this is just a different type of romance novel. I don't even know if it would necessarily be put in the category of fully romance, because there's so many other dynamics going on. It is not a closed door romance, but I would say this one is more, not as intense as the other one. And so it's pretty minimal with that department. But honestly, like, I'm looking at my shelf and I'm just like, the book is beautiful. The story was beautiful. It kept me engaged. Not much else you can want in a book. The 9th book is different. This is called The Cozy Minimalist Home by Mike Smith. Her name is literally spelled so uniquely that I don't know how to say it. So this was one of those books, kind of more like a coffee table style book. Actually, let me just grab it for you. So this was one of the books. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit bigger, but it's one of those that is filled with beautiful photos and like just more aesthetically pleasing, a lot of pictures, really good, just like the way everything is formatted. It's larger. It is more, so basically, it is a guide. If you are someone who's like, I really want a cozy home, but I don't want a cluttery home. Like, I want to be more on the minimal side, but I still want my home to feel homey and cozy. Because you see those Pinterest photos of a minimal house and you're like, do you live your life in this house? Because there's nothing. There's no pillows. There's no blankets. There's no decor at all. And so my husband and I kind of fall into that. We're like, we don't need all the little trinkets and all the little everything everywhere. We like it more minimal, but we want it to feel homey and cozy and inviting, that someone walks in and they feel at home. They don't walk in and they're like, there's no furniture and everything's white and so this book is a perfect guide. Like, it truly is a guide to walk you through how to like declutter, simplify, but then also like it literally walks you through the room and like fully emptying the room and the guide to how to make like how to design things. And so it was really cool. My husband and I would just read out loud on drives. This was around the time when we were getting our rental house in Minnesota, like all cleaned and good to go for our movers moving in, right around the time we were moving here. And so we had a lot more like long car rides, and so I would read a chapter and then we would like talk about it and talk about how we would implement it and kind of like what we were thinking. We are currently in a rental house, so some things, this isn't as applicable if you aren't a homeowner, but I would say even as a renter, like it can give you good ideas to what you can do with a space that's not yet fully, like I can't just go paint my walls. Do I love this like yellowy color? Not really, but, and I can't go change it, but how can I make my home still feel super homey and cozy despite not being able to change things like that? Like this book helps you. So I talked way too long about that, but that is my 9th book. And the 10th book was actually the first book that I read this year. It is the one and the only Colleen Hoover book I've ever and probably will ever read. I have heard a lot of things about those kinds of books and they just aren't really something that I want to dive into, but this one is different. And this one is absolutely like heart-wrenching, like such a good family drama, but with some romance. But also as a mom, you just like feel that pull and that tug at your heart in a way that's just like I want to hug my children, and like just a really nice story. And it was one of those, again, I read it in just a couple of days. I felt engaged the entire time. And so yeah, I can't recommend other Colleen Hoover books, but this Colleen Hoover book is different in that way. But I hope that you enjoyed my top 10 books I read in 2023. I maybe would love to do a video just about the books that I want to read in 2024. We'll see if I get around to that, but I love reading and I would love just other readers to comment below your favorite books, ones that were not mentioned that I need to read because I need more on my TBR for 2024 right now. It's kind of minimal. So send me over all the book recommendations. Let me know if you've read any of my top 10, if you like them, and if I should do more book content in the future. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.